Hi, everyone. My name is Rudo Kemper. I am Chief Program Officer at the Cadasta Foundation, and I am also on the Executive Board of Native Land Digital. And unfortunately, I could not be there with you in person today at the Maps for Your Mission panel, but I am very happy to be sharing via this video a little bit about Native Land Digital, what we do, and also how you can now use Native Land Digital data in your own maps. To supplement what my colleague Valerie from the Partnership of the National Trail System will have shared by the time that you're watching this. So, mapping with native land using indigenous geographies in your maps. So just quickly, Native Land Digital is a nonprofit organization based in Canada, but with global coverage, and we have a team also across different countries besides Canada. And briefly, our mission is to map indigenous lands in a way that changes, challenges, and improves the way people see history and the present day, with the hopes of strengthening spiritual bonds that people have with the land, its people, and its meaning. Most people are familiar with Native Land Digital in this format. We have a global map with thousands of territories of indigenous communities, as well as languages and treaties available. And most of this is user-contributed data, so people send us maps from all across the world, from different resources. We do some research and then we add them to the map. It started primarily in North America, but increasingly coverage, as you can see here, in South America, the Caribbean, and Central America. And also we're starting to add more maps to Africa and Southeast Asia and other places as well. There's also a smartphone app for both Android and iPhone if you're interested in using that. And just very briefly, the way that this works, or at least one of the ways in which you can interact with native land, is you can search a location of interest. So in this case, I search for Curacao, my native island in the Caribbean, and it will travel to there on the map, and it will show you which areas with indigenous territories, historically or present day, intersect. So in this case, we have Taino and Caquetillo territory. And then from here, what you can do is click on the individual pages of those territories as well. So in the case of the Taino page here, there are some websites, some related maps, and we also have our sources and changelog. So you can follow along how we are adapting these maps over time. And our hope is very much that this is also a living map that continuously gets updated as we get new information. So just very briefly, native land tends to go viral quite a few times per year, or I should say a few times a year, but in very intensive ways. So on Indigenous Peoples Day, former Columbus Day, last year, we had almost 1 million visitors to the main page. Most people tend to spend about 2 minutes on the homepage, which is actually pretty good when it comes to overall statistics of people looking at websites. We've been going viral since 2015. We have over 4,000 polygons on the map. We have 5 board members, mostly Indigenous. I'm one of the non-Indigenous people on the board. And we have endless theoretical questions about how to do this in the right way, in a responsible way, how to go about this. There's lots to say there. Yeah, so we have an API through which you can actually access our data and use it for your own applications. So all of the data is open. Some people have used this to build smartphone apps where you can send a text message to get a sense of which indigenous land you're on. It's being used by a Canadian encyclopedia. It's being used in a lot of different kinds of ways. And I don't have time to tell you about all of them, but one recent one that's, of course, very exciting is our partnership with the Partnership for the National Trail System, as well as the Bureau of Land Management, where together we sponsored an indigenous mapper by the name of Kiana Etsate Gashatiwa to create an indigenous map that combines our native land data with the National Trail System data. So this is a really exciting example of how you can use native land data to highlight a different data set. So in this case, the National Trail System. So this is actually an Esri map, as you can see. And what it does is it overlays the native land data with that of the National Trail System. And then Kiana's done some configuration where you can see for each of the national trails which indigenous lands it intersects with. So if you're interested as you're doing some hiking or learning about the lands where you're on, so in this case, I've highlighted the Washington Rochambeau National Historic Trail, which is nearby here to Washington, D.C. you can learn about which Indigenous lands this intersects with, which is a really exciting and I think good example of how you can use native land data. So that raises the question, can you use native land data in Esri? And I'm really excited to share with you today at FedGIS that we now actually have a native lands digital layer on ArcGIS Online. And this is also updated on a weekly basis. So every single week on Sunday, this feature layer will be updated with whatever the latest data is in the native land API. So as we start to add new mapping data on native land, it will also become accessible in Esri. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be included also soon in the Living Atlas. At the time of recording, that's not yet the case, but you can already access this in your Esri maps in ArcGIS Online or in ArcGIS Pro as well by accessing this feature layer, which is public. So this is what that looks like if you were to make a web map. So in this case, I've added it and I've played around a little bit with the pop-ups to show what you can do in terms of configuring the data. And just one other quick example here is this is in ArcGIS Pro. And this is something that I've often done with the native lands data set is it can be a little overwhelming to see all of the different polygons overlapping. That may be a nice thing depending on the map that you're creating, but you can also just use the labels, right? And that can be a really effective way of highlighting the different lands that you have in an area of interest where you are creating maps in addition with your own data. So just another example here. And so, yeah, this is really exciting. We're very happy to partner with Esri on this and to provide this service. So in closing, I would just love to know how will you use native land digital in your own maps? So we're super eager to know and interested in any maps that you create. If you would like to share them and have them featured on our website, we would love to do so. Please feel free to send them to us. And with that, we'd just like to say thank you. And if you're interested in learning more about native land, there's the website. You can also feel free to email me at rudo@nativeland.ca or follow me on Twitter. And with that, we'd like to say thank you and look forward to being in touch with you.